Henry III of Głogów was the Duke of Głogów from 1274 to his death, and also Duke of parts of Greater Poland during 1306 to 1309. He was one of the sons of Konrad I, Duke of Głogów, by his first wife Salome, daughter of Duke Władysław of Greater Poland. Life. Early years. Little is known about his first years of life. In 1267 Henry III participated in the canonization of his great-grandmother Hedwig of Andechs. At the time of his father's death in 1274 he and his brothers are still minors. For this, his stepmother Sophie of Landsberg and the Chancellor Mikołaj took the guardianship. Shortly after, they sold the towns of Bolesławiec and Nowogrodzic Nadquizit to the Archbishop of Magdeburg. Beginning of cooperation with Henry IV Probus. The first participation of Henry III in the political arena was in 1277, when together with Przemysl II of Greater Poland he took part in an armed expedition against his uncle Bolesław II the Bull. The trip was provoked by the attitude of the Duke of Legnica, who, in order to obtain territorial concessions, kidnapped the young Henry IV and imprisoned him in his castle of Legnica. Henry III and the Bohemian King Ottokar II formed a coalition of Silesian princes to help the prisoner duke. However, they were defeated in the Battle of Stolec on 24 April 1277. At the head of the Legnica troops came the son and heir of Bolesław II, Henry V the Fat. It was probably here that the conflicts between him and Henry V began, which later caused great suffering to the Duke of Legnica. Fall of King Ottokar II and division of the Duchy of Głogów. 1 year later Henry III participated in the Great Battle on the Marchfeld, where King Ottokar II was defeated and killed. In the same year Henry III was forced to make a division of his lands between his brothers. He retained the main cities of the Duchy, Głogów, Bytom Odrzański and Kozichow. Konrad II the Hunchback obtained Synawa, and Przemko received Agon and Nowogrod Bobrzański. Soon after, Konrad II went to study in Bologna, and Henry IV Probus took his lands in his name. With this, the ruler of Wrocław showed his intentions to stretch his sovereignty over all the other Głogów princes and Silesian rulers. Influence of Henry IV Probus over Silesia. In 1281 Henry III, together with Henry V the Fat and Przemysl II of Greater Poland, were invited by Henry IV Probus to a meeting in Sadow. The Duke of Wrocław broke the law of hospitality and captured the 3 dukes. Henry IV released them only after they recognized his overlordship. Although the agreement was concluded under duress, it has stood the test of time, and in the next few years, we see Henry III, together with his brother Przemko, among the close associates of the Duke of Wrocław in his great political ecclesiastical conflict. Thomas II, Bishop of Wrocław. His loyalty to Henry IV Probus caused that the ruler of Głogów would be excommunicated twice. It was only after the death of Henry IV that Henry III's relations with the clergy returned to normality. Henry IV's death and execution of his will. The close cooperation between Henry III and Henryk IV Probus was evident when in Krosno Odrzański on the 11th of January 1288 Henry III was knighted by the Duke of Wrocław. The major proof of the subjugation of the Duke of Głogów was after the death of his brother Przemko on the 26th of February 1289. His Duchy of Synawa was annexed by Henry IV without any protest of Henry III. However, 1 year later, on the 23rd of June 1290, Henry IV Probus died suddenly, probably poisoned, an event which seriously affected the further career of the Duke of Głogów. In his will, the dying Duke of Wrocław left Henry III as his main heir. However, the Wrocław knights and burghers had other plans, and 1 month later they forced Henry III to escape. As the new ruler, the rebels invited Duke Henry V the Fat of Legnica to take the government. The reasons for the Wrocław revolt were unknown, but maybe the harsh rule of Henry III was a decisive factor. In any event, Henry III refused to accept this and immediately declared war on Henry V. War against Henry V the Fat. Shortly after taking control over Wrocław, Henry V the Fat forced the Duke of Głogów to renounce all his pretensions over the disputed territories of Chownów, Bolesław, Gościuszów, Nowogrodzic, Sinawa, Winsko, Syko, Uraz, Trzebnica, Milicz and Sadal. However, Henry III managed to recover Sinawa soon after. Both sides quickly began to find allies who would support them in the war. Henry III made a treaty with the House of Wettin, strengthening this alliance by marrying the daughter of Duke Albert I of Brunswick-Luneburg, Matilda. Further allies were Otto IV, Margrave of Brandenburg, Stendhal, and Przemysl II of Greater Poland. With the latter, Henry III entered into an arrangement under which if Przemysl II died without male issue, the Duke of Głogów would inherit his lands. In the meanwhile, Henry V the Fat obtained the support of King Wenceslaus II of Bohemia. Henry V's rule over Wrocław was extremely conservative and clashed with some political opponents among the nobility. One of them, Pakoslaw Zadyszka, was sentenced to death accused of murder. The revenge of Pakoslaw's son Ludka was impressive. On the 11th of November 1293, he captured Henry V and gave him to Henry III, who put him in an iron cage for almost 6 months. Henry V only obtained his freedom after surrendering the towns of Przemysl, Bierutów, Olesnica, Klasztorp, Byczyna, Walczyn, Olesno, Chownów and Bolesław, with the respective fortresses to Henry III, paying of a ransom of 30,000 pieces of silver and promising to assist the Duke of Głogów for the next 5 years in all his wars. Death of Przemysl II and the succession over Greater Poland. On the 8th of February 1296, the Duke of Greater Poland and since 1295 King of Poland Przemysl II was murdered. The Greater Poland-Głogów alliance collapsed around 1293, when Przemysl II attacked Duke Władysław I the Elbow High of Kujawia. Because of this, the Greater Poland nobility chose Władysław I to succeed Przemysl II in Poznan, despite the claims of Henry III, who considered that the treaty signed with Przemysl II in 1290 was still valid and in consequence, he was his sole heir. Henry III and Władysław I quickly concluded a settlement on the 10th of March 1296 in Krywon, under which the Duke of Głogów obtained all the lands from the south of the Obra River. At the same time, Władysław I designated Henry III's eldest son, Henry IV the Faithful, as his heir over Poznan and, in case of his death without male issue, over all Greater Poland. War against Bolko I the Strict. The reason Henry III gave large concessions to Władysław I in the Treaty of 1296 was that he was already defeated by Bolko I the Strict, Duke of Głogów. When Henry III stayed in Krywon, Bolko I took Chownów and Bolesław. Through the mediation of King Wenceslaus II of Bohemia, a settlement was made on Dzwanowice in March 1297. The Duke of Głogów managed to make a truce with the Duke of Głogów, but was forced to renounce the above-mentioned districts. relations with King Wenceslaus II of Bohemia. At the end of the 1290s, Henry III could improve his relations with the King Wenceslaus II of Bohemia, but also his relations with Władysław I the Elbow High deteriorated, and at the end a war broke out. In June 1298, in Koshan, Henry III and Władysław I signed a new treaty, under which, in return for confirmation of the Church and the inclusion in a future kingdom of the functions of Chancellor, Henry III promised assistance to Władysław I in order to complete the total subjection of Greater Poland, Gdansk, Pomerania, and in this way he could obtain the royal crown. The conflict between the Pist dukes was used by King Wenceslaus II. In the village of Kleka on 23 August 1299 an agreement was concluded under which Henry III was forced to abandon his pretensions over all Greater Poland for good. Disputes with Bishop Jan Romka and Konrad II the Hunchback. Henry III accepted immediately the intervention of the Bohemian king, because he was busy in his own duchy with his disputes with the Bishop of Wrocław Jan Romka. The conflict was caused by the Duchy of Agen, which previously belonging to his younger brother Konrad II the Hunchback, was taken by Henry III in March 1299 when Konrad II was chosen as Patriarch of Aquileia. But when Konrad II returned to Agen, Henrik III didn't want to return the duchy to him, which was under his rule during his absence. Even after the intervention of the vassals and the church, Henry III refused to give Konrad II his duchy. Bishop Jan Romka excommunicated him and supported the requests of Konrad II. The fight with the church was resolved only on 24 April 1300, confirming the victory of the bishop and the restitution of Agen to Konrad II. Increase of Henry III's power. Adoption of the title heir of the Kingdom of Poland. The Duke of Głogów didn't have any intention of resigning his pretensions over the Greater Poland inheritance, as was evidenced in 1301, when he adopted the title heir of the Polish Kingdom, Duke of Silesia, Głogów and Poznan. This soon caused an armed conflict with the King of Bohemia and now of Poland, Wenceslaus II. The danger around Henry III increased especially after 1301, when the Bohemian king took over the custody of the children of Henry V the Fat. This after the death on 9 November 1301 of their uncle Bolko I the Strict. Despite the delicate situation, the war never occurred, because Wenceslaus II was busy in his attempts to obtain the Hungarian crown for his son. The death of Wenceslaus II in 1305 and the murder of his son and successor Wenceslaus III the following year favored the opportunities of Henry III over his pretensions in Greater Poland. The death of his brother Konrad II on the 11th of October 1304 further facilitated Henry III's situation, because he could annex his Duchy of Agen without inconvenience and also reunified the whole Duchy of Głogów under his rule. Claims over Greater Poland. Acquisition of parts from Przemysli's inheritance. In the spring of 1306, Henry III was able to advance over the Greater Poland Kujawia borderline and Gdansk Pomerania, forcing Władysław I the Elbow High to retreat. Kalisz resisted the pretensions of the Duke of Głogów, but he was able to master it in 1307 from his current ruler, Duke Władysław III the Generous, who also had a claim over the whole succession of Wenceslaus. Eventually, all Greater Poland was taken by the Duke of Głogów. Soon Henry III and the new King of Bohemia, Henry of Carinthia, formed an alliance against Władysław I's ambitious plans. Internal politics. In the internal politics, Henry III could maintain his duchy far away from the wars where he was constantly involved, and in consequence, the economy improved, and with this the prestige and wealth of Głogów increased. Henry III also introduced administrative and monetary reforms which affected not only the townspeople but also his own court and the nobility. Also, he founded more than a dozen urban centers. In his relations with the Church, Henry III was a generous benefactor. During his rule, several monasteries and parish churches were founded. The Duke of Głogów, also patron of many artists, which is reflected in the building of the tombstones of Henry IV Probus Bolesław the Tall, his brothers and parents, in the Głogów Collegiata and Przemysł II in Poznan Cathedral. Death and succession. Henry III died on 9 December 1309 and was buried in the Cistercian Church of Lubiaz. His 5 sons, Henry IV, Konrad I, Jan Bolesław and Przemysł, soon split between them the inheritance of his father and led to the decline of the duchy. Moreover, this political fragmentation, visible especially in the Greater Poland region, scared the local nobility, who thought that maybe they risked losing the positions. In the end, Władysław I the Elbow High was able to conquer all Greater Poland in 1314. Marriage and issue. In March 1291, Henry III married Matilda, daughter of Albert I, Duke of Brunswick-Luneburg. They had 9 children. Henry IV the Faithful, Konrad I, Bolesław, Agnes, married firstly on 18 May 1309 to Otto III, Duke of Bavaria, and secondly in 1329 to Ulrich, Count of Hals. Salome, Jan, Katharina, married firstly Bef. The 24th of March 1317 to John V, Margrave of Brandenburg Salzwedel, and secondly by the 27th of January 1319 to John III, Count of Holstein-Plön. Przemysł II. Hedwig. In his will, Henry III left his wife Głogów as her opera dowager, which she ruled until her own death.